welcome to the UK summer. You're just in time as we're in the shadow of the South Bank, a cultural epicentre in the British capital of London, about to take you on a journey, at least for the next 5 weeks, as we take in the sights and the sounds that the UK has to offer away from the cricket field. And we start off our journey right here in one of the most vibrant cities in the world. It's also one of the most visited cities, London. Having hosted the first ever international cricket match in England in September 1880, the Oval Cricket Ground has a long and proud cricketing history. Home to county side Surrey, the Oval played host to the first match of this year's edition of the world's greatest celebration in cricket, the ICC Cricket World Cup. CEO of Surrey Cricket, Richard Gould, tells us more about this historic ground.
Yeah, first ever test. We first started playing cricket here back in 1845. Before there was a cricket ground, it was actually a very large vegetable patch. And it's owned by the Duchy of Cornwall, which is in effect the Prince of Wales. So the Prince of Wales is our landlord, which is why you will see the feathers motif around here, which is his motif that we share with him. So yeah, started here in 1845. First Ashes, the first England against Australia Test match took place here, and then the Ashes were created here, when for the first time England lost to the Australians.
Richard let us in on what he and his team aim to accomplish as a cricket venue in hosting international matches.
International events, well, firstly, it's always an honour to host international events, and we always really enjoy hosting the teams from abroad and also their supporters from abroad. Here in London, it's such a diverse city that every international team that comes and plays here effectively has their own home support. And the challenge for us is to make sure that, that they feel really welcomed and that it effectively is a home game for both teams. That's what we try and deliver.
With the first match of the 2019 Cricket World Cup behind us, Richard took us through what goes into hosting an opening match of a world tournament.
Yeah, a lot of pressure, because the first game, clearly everybody's eyes are upon you. Security is always an issue going into any major global event, and a lot of focus and attention went into that, to ensuring that all risks are mitigated. We need to make sure that the cricket conditions are good, so the pitch, we need to make sure that the pitch is in great condition, the outfield. And we really want to make sure that it's a world-class venue, so when people come here, they have a great time, great view, good food, of course, sitting on top of the most important thing, which is the great cricket. It all went very, very smoothly, so we were pleased with that. It was a good performance by England. I would say that, I apologise. But it was, I think it set the tone for the competition to come, particularly our Ben Stokes catch, which was clearly world-class. And that's what we're after. In global events, you want world-class sport.
Given its legendary status and historic value, it is many a player's dream to play at the Oval. For fans, it is just as much an experience to watch them play from the stands in this prestigious cricketing venue.
Yeah, we certainly try to make sure that people can get a sense of that history. Cricket grounds tend to evolve. Football grounds sometimes just get built from scratch, and there you go, it's all new. Here we've got stands that go back to 1870, compared to the stand that we're on now, which was only finished 2 years ago. And the fact that the cricket ground evolves means that you can maintain elements of history, but also bring a degree of modernity. So we like to try and make sure we've got really comfortable facilities, lots of terrace areas where people can meet their friends and watch the cricket in a really sociable atmosphere.
Chris Morris always brags about this ground. Now I know why. It is epic. As broadcasters, we at SuperSport put a lot of effort in trying to bring our loyal viewers the best coverage possible, which means going further than just the action on the field. We preview games with world-renowned experts, bring you insights from former players who have inside knowledge about competing in a tournament like the World Cup, and of course, live ball-by-ball commentary on match days. One of the voices of this year's tournament is our very own Pommy Mbangwa.
who knows how to handle the intensity of lights, camera, and action.
We're out here in the open. You know, the one thing about having a hectic schedule when you're on a tour, when you're at a World Cup, is to find the time to like come out, see what nature's got going on, and just maybe escape from the hecticness of the job. Do you get to do that often?
What you're doing with your schedule?
That was my schedule.
Okay, yeah, no, because mine's not hectic.
Is yours not as hectic?
No, I don't think it's as hectic as yours. I don't have to catch up with anyone. I don't have to, you know, well, I do, but yeah, to get away from work and kind of enjoy a run. And as you say, this looks quite nice.
So you do this every day then?
Not every day, that'd be a lie. I do it on many days, so sort of go out. Sometimes you have to do it early in the morning, depending on how you feel. Sometimes you, because of traveling, sometimes you can't sleep. You wake up quite early, and then you get out there and just kind of get on the road.
It's good to get you out of the hotel, probably, and just for a few minutes to take in the fresh air. Now, when you are touring, what is the best thing and the worst thing?
The best thing, I think, is that you get to see new places. I think even if you're seeing, for cricket, even if you're seeing them over and over again, you discover new things about the cities you've been to. Worst thing? I don't know, some would call me an old guy, and so family is that's a bit of a bummer. You learn to live with it because you've got to do what you got to do, but that's probably the worst thing about it.
This is ICC event number that you're covering?
I don't know. I don't count them. So I know that there are people who do count the number
Shouldn't
of
we
games.
count them now?
Okay, we can.
Very first one.
2003 World Cup.
2003 in South Africa.
Yeah.
That must have been
In
special.
Zimbabwe and South Africa.
So what prompted that next step for you after playing?
Well, I don't know. I kind of just led that way, I guess. I sort of led into that direction. So having done it after 2003 World Cup, I still carried on playing, sort of provincially, and played for the A side a couple of times. And then maybe a year later, thought, okay, this is done. On to the next one. 2007, but I'm trying to think what was it 2007 World Cup 50 overs in the West Indies before the 2000, it was, wasn't it? Before the 2007 T20 World Cup. It was, eh? So there you go, that's 3 of them. And then there was 2011.
2011, I remember seeing you in India.
Yeah, India, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, I think that was. 2012, I think there was a 2020 World Cup somewhere. 2014, there was definitely a T20 World Cup somewhere. 2015, there was a 2015, were they both World Cups?
No, it was 2015, Australia and
Yeah.
New Zealand, and then 2016 was the World T20.
Okay, yeah, so we'll count those.
That was in India.
Yeah, and that was in India. And then 2016,
2017 ICC Champions Trophy.
where was that? No, I didn't do that actually. I did that out of studio at Supersport, so didn't attend that one. And then
That was a good one.
yeah, you were here, were you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good.
Pakistan
I kind
one.
of like feel like being here again this time around. It's so familiar, especially the Oval where the final was.
Right, yeah.
Those memories are still really vivid and
Yeah.
very fresh. So it's kind of, it's interesting to go back to a place.
Yeah. And then so here we are, 2019.
So that is,
9.
that's 9. Pretty awesome, isn't it?
Yeah, when I left home,
Please don't downplay it. Everybody at home is thinking,
hold on.
what? You get to go
No.
to 9
hold-
ICC
So
events.
yeah, when I left home, many people would say, "Oh, you're going to," and each time I'd go, "Yeah," but inside, I'm going, "Yeah, it's like 6.5, 7 weeks. It's a long time. Like I don't know if you get that. Like yeah, but you're at the World Cup, and it's like 6.5, 7 weeks of work." And many people go, "Oh, you call that work?" I love it. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely love it. But I wish like I could do every kind of week, just pop back for the weekend or something and come back.
Teleportation.
It would be even better if it was that way. And as I say, don't get me wrong, it's fantastic to be able to attend like the pinnacle event and kind of one-day cricket, and cover it, and to kind of do it over and over again, see the teams evolve. If you think about who the teams were in various teams, so take South Africa as an example, to think some of the guys who I was watching and covering, and let's go back, give an example. So go back to 2007 World Cup in the West Indies. Smith was captain, Pollock was playing. They sit with me now in the combox, you know? And so that kind of thing is quite interesting because the dynamics and how you relate to people and all of that, it's fabulous.
So this World Cup, how excited are you?
The buzz of it, I reckon there's more buzz before it starts. And so I like when it's begun and then you kind of get on with it. That's it. That's it. Yeah, I don't know if I'm excitable. I love it. I absolutely love doing it. But if you asked me on the day, maybe my kind of energy towards it would be a bit different because then you're kind of going and things are happening and you know.
There's over 1,400 years of history right behind us, but what of the London restaurant scene? They say that a new restaurant in London opens every 2 days. And there's a South African chef who is making his mark on a booming London restaurant scene.
Hi, I'm Patrick, and this is Kudu Restaurant.
If you want the most exciting foodie spots in London, locals suggest that you head south, and that's why we've come to Peckham to catch up with a chef who is making waves on the London food scene with a South African twist. Okay, let's just start with Patrick. Where do you come from, and how did you start that journey from being in Durban, in South Africa, and making your way across?
Well, it started when I was quite young. My brother, who's older by 7 years, he decided to become a chef when he was about 17, 18. So sort of as he was going through college, cooking, sort of working in the industry, I kind of got caught up in it, saw how much energy it took, and I have bounds of that, so that was quite an interesting aspect. When I was about 15, he moved down to Cape Town, and then sort of thought, well, it'd be a good space for me to take up and start cooking in the real world. My brother said there's no better place than to move down to Cape Town. So as soon as I finished school, I moved down to Cape Town, spent about just shy of 10 years there, cooking in some of the top spots there, worked at places like Alarm, worked with PJ Vadis at Campers. At that point I was a sous chef and decided I still needed to take on a bit more info and learn a lot more. So PJ from Campers decided to push me on and say, look, you know, if you're going to learn, London's probably one of the best places in the world to do that. So yeah, he kind of got the bug into me, and say about 4 months after that, I really just got into the plane and moved to London, really.
So 5 years into your London experience and that journey of getting here, but being at this stage now where you have your own little baby.
You know, my partner Amy, who's sort of been the burning force behind me, trying to push me further and get me to my certain points in life and to sort of like where we are now. I mean, she's been the main person behind me, sort of that's given me the opportunity to run this little kitchen, to produce the food that I like to create, and also just make it fun. You know, the guys in the kitchen are all part of the family now. You know, we've got a little dog, a new baby girl. So, you know, the whole family atmosphere is definitely what's created me to sort of, or grab me, I should say, to sort of like do what we do here, make things fun, make things, you know, enjoyable. It's not a job, it's about coming in, creating some food, and actually having fun while doing it.
And how do you stay true to your South African heritage?
Ooh, how do I stay true? Oh, that's a tricky one. I mean, I don't really think of it that way. I think what I do is I try and sort of like play homage in terms of small elements to our menu. I mean, we're not blatantly out there South African style restaurant, so we try and do the modern European with South African influences. So for example, the morsbolletjies, we have biltong on the menu, you know, things like that. Our original menu had a peppermint crisp, but a play on it. You know, so things like that that really sort of tie into us. The spices we use, the way we cook, we use the braai pretty much for, I'd say 2/3 of the menu. There's always a smoky, burnt element to the dish that is done on our braai, or blowtorch, or something like that really plays to how South Africans really eat on a general day-to-day basis, you know.
It smells really good. What am I smelling right now?
That's the mosbolletjies.
Oh, yay! Now, talking about the mosbolletjies, I mean, you look at your menu, and the one thing from a South African perspective that stands out is the mosbolletjies, and it sounds divine. Why mosbolletjies? Is it something special to you?
I mean, the sourdough trend has been massive, and it's been massive for a few years, and trying to be a little bit standout, a little bit different, sort of like, you know, being a little new restaurant, sort of like on the edge of Peckham, you know, you have to do something that's a little bit more unique, a little bit more niche, and you know, the mosbolletjies is something that I did in college, and it always kind of grabbed me, the whole concept of using a previously fermented product to make another product, you know, using the grape must from the first sort of like fermentation of wine, at the end of the wine fermentation, and that's your natural yeast. So that's where the basics started in terms of like, okay, let's do it. So we went through a lot of testing, a lot of sort of different batches, different recipes, until we finally figured out that this was the one that we wanted to use. So yeah, a lot of South African spices in there, and that's how we sort of like nailed it.
And how do you make it come alive on the plate?
How do we make it come alive? Ooh, well, we serve it with melted butter that's pretty much sizzling. So you've got two options. You've either got with bacon and sumac smoked butter, and then you've got baby brown shrimp, and then you've got fermented Delft butter. So they both come to the plate, to the table, and they're both foaming, sizzling, and very aromatic. So I think that's how we make it come alive. And it's very much sort of like get involved. It's not about eating it with a knife and fork. You know, you get it, you tear it apart, you jam it in the butter, and you stick it in your mouth. Right? You know, it's about being a little bit more raw with that. So yeah.
Love that. So if you had to put it into a few words, what is your food philosophy?
My food philosophy is about keeping it simple, not overcomplicating things, making sure that we're using premium products. Sort of like, it doesn't have to be expensive. I mean, we use cheap cuts of meat. We don't use the most expensive fish. You know, it's about using things that are on an underlying level are sort of like known as like, I'll brush it off, I'd rather go get the fillet instead, but we use things like onglet. You know, we use smaller fish like gurnards and things like that, just because, you know, sustainability first is a big thing, and especially going forward, you know, sustainability is becoming a real big problem, you know, overfishing, you know. So that's where we sit in terms of how we want to push forward with our menus, making sure that the menu is tight, concise, sustainable, and fresh.
So if somebody walks in to Kudu Restaurant, what is the experience that you'd like them to have and leave with?
I think it's about being comfortable. It's not about being stiff, it's about being relaxed. I mean, you can see the decor is a little bit more softer. It's a little bit more, it's got a touch of femininity to it. You know, it's a little bit more softer. My partner Amy, and she collabed with the designer to really get this place to really feel soft and gentle. And you know, you can get places that are stripped back, but when you walk in here, it's comforting. You walk through the curtains in the middle of winter, and you walk through, it's like you're pretty much in a concrete jungle out there, and as soon as you walk through here, it's soft. There's good music playing, you know, good funk and soul playing, so it's a little bit more loose, you can relax. Good wines, good cocktails, and yeah, I think that's the start of the meal. And how you order your menu, I think that's for you to decide, really. I would say just go for it all, really, but that's me.
I'd go there too.
Yeah.
How good does that look? There's nothing better than getting a taste of home when you're more than 10,000 kilometers away from it. And Chef Patrick Williams and Kudu Restaurant are definitely bringing South Africa to London, just like the Proteas. So the Proteas started off the World Cup right in London, but what's a great way to see London as it should be? Well, that's through the eyes of a cabbie, and Alan Taylor has been doing it for the last 30 years. He knows London like the back of his hand, so let's go. So when people get into your cab, Alan, what are the main attractions they want to see? What's top of their list?
Well, the most popular spots in London, I would say, are the big iconic places like St Paul's Cathedral, which we're just going past, which has been here for over 300 years, and one of the biggest buildings in London. And the St Paul's that you see was built around about 1670, and it took about 38 years to build. And designed by Sir Christopher Wren, the famous royal architect who redesigned much of London after the Great Fire.
Why would you want to visit Westminster?
Well, Westminster was where the Anglo-Saxons came after the Romans, about 400 years after the Romans had left. And they kind of set up that area as Westminster. And a palace was built. And just across the square there, you've got Westminster Abbey, which has been there since 1245. In actual fact, there was a Westminster Abbey before that in 960 AD. So we've had an abbey there for over 1,000 years. And for 1,000 years, that's where every king and queen has been coronated. So it's a very important building, full of history.
And how many royal parks are there in London?
Off the top of my head, there's about 5. So you've got Hyde Park, Green Park, St James's Park, Regent's Park. There's Richmond Park, which is further down to the west.
And how big is Hyde Park? I mean, where does it stretch?
It's around about 500, just over 530 acres. And it's actually joined to another royal park, which is Kensington Park. That's where Kensington Palace is.
If you had to describe London in just a sentence, what experience do you think tourists get from London?
I think they're awe-inspired. I think it's a fabulous city. It's very green, lots of trees, lots of squares and gardens, and little places where you can hide and hide away from the noise and hustle and bustle of the city. And I think people like that. That's one of the pluses that don't get talked about as much. You've got these big iconic buildings, but also there's lots of little things that make it a great city.
Thanks. That's the way to end off a tour of London, with a stop at a cabbie hut that dates back to the 1800s, and it's also the best spot to get a good cup of tea. Alan, it's such a great setting to just park off for a little bit. Tell us about the cabbie huts.
Well, the cabbie huts, they date back to about 1875. During that time, taxi driving you was in a hansom cab, which was a horse-drawn taxi. And the driver was pretty much exposed to the elements. And on a particularly stormy night, a guy named Sir George Armstrong, who was quite a character, and he had a butler, and he sent the butler out to go and get him a taxi. He wanted to get from St John's Wood to Fleet Street. And about an hour later, the butler came back, and he said, "Oh, where have you been?" He said, "Well, I can't get a taxi because it's snowing out, it's freezing cold, and all the taxi drivers are in the pub, and they're looking a little bit worse for the wear, many of them." So I said, "Well, this won't do," and that's what kick-started the green shelters, the green huts that we have.
So, tell us about the knowledge. Is it as intense as it sounds?
It's very intense. It takes, on average, between 3 to 4 years to do. And it's still true that 7 out of 10 people drop out, because it's a pretty tough thing to learn about the streets. It's not just the streets, you're learning about the buildings, the gardens, the squares and hospitals and clubs, pubs, you know. You're having to learn all this stuff and retain it. And so that's a pretty tough thing to do. And for 3 years or more, you're probably the most boring person in the world, because all you can talk about is the knowledge. And after that, it's a relief to finally achieve your badge, which I have here. So this is my knowledge badge, or my taxi badge. But yeah, it's a struggle, but it's been worth it.
Has it made you love London more?
I think it has, actually. You know, I've noticed more about London since being a tour guide. I'm finding more things. When you look up, you see more things. You know, I've been driving down streets for 30 years now, and I'm seeing things that I've driven past so many times and looked up, and now I'm seeing something, like a statue or some kind of crest or something, and some really interesting artwork. So yeah, it's opened London up even more to me now.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Alan.
Okay.
Great. London is where this ICC Cricket World Cup began, and it is where it will officially end come the 14th of July when the champions are crowned. Between now and then, there's ample opportunity to take in the history and the culture that the UK has to offer. Next stop, Southampton.